Welcome to SI Audiobooks. Please like, share and subscribe for more content. Title: After the Funeral. Author: Agatha Christie. Genre: mystery, crime fiction. Detective: Hercule Poirot. Chapter by chapter summary. Chapter 1: The Funeral. The Abernethy family gathers for the funeral of Richard Abernethy, the wealthy patriarch of the family who has died of what seems to be natural causes. His siblings, nieces, and nephews meet at his estate to mourn and discuss the future. During the post-funeral gathering, Richard's eccentric sister, Cora Lansquenet, shocks everyone by casually saying, "But he was murdered, wasn't he?" Her remark unsettles the family, though most dismiss it as one of her odd, tactless statements. Chapter 2: The Reading of the Will. The family lawyer, Mr. Entwistle, reads Richard's will. Richard left most of his fortune to be divided equally among his surviving siblings and nieces and nephews. Timothy Abernethy, Richard's ailing brother. Cora Lansquenet, eccentric sister. Susan Banks, ambitious niece. Rosamond Shane, theater-loving niece. George Crossfield, scheming nephew. The family accepts the distribution without dispute, but Mr. Entwistle is troubled by Cora's earlier remark. He begins to suspect Richard's death might not have been natural. Chapter 3: Cora's Murder. The day after the funeral, Cora Lansquenet is found brutally murdered in her cottage. She was killed with a hatchet, a violent crime that horrifies the family. Her house was also ransacked, making it look like a burglary. Mr. Entwistle becomes convinced that her death is linked to Richard's and contacts Hercule Poirot, the famous Belgian detective, to investigate both deaths. Chapter 4: Poirot joins the case. Mr. Entwistle meets Poirot and explains the Abernethy family dynamics, the will, and Cora's murder. Poirot agrees to investigate, intrigued by the potential connection between the two deaths. Poirot is particularly struck by Cora's remark at the funeral, wondering whether it was a dangerous truth or an innocent, coincidental statement. Chapter 5: Family Suspects. Poirot begins interviewing the family members. Each has a plausible motive for wanting a larger share of the inheritance. Timothy Abernethy, Richard's sickly brother, complains about his poor health and financial difficulties. Susan Banks, ambitious and business-minded, sees herself as deserving of a larger share. Rosamond Shane, a dreamy actress, and her husband Michael seem unconcerned but need money for their theatrical ventures. George Crossfield, a scheming cousin, has debts and a dubious character. Chapter 6: Miss Gilchrist. Poirot meets Miss Gilchrist, Cora's companion, who was living with her at the time of her death. Miss Gilchrist is devastated by Cora's murder and recalls that Cora recently bought a painting she was excited about. Poirot learns that Miss Gilchrist is financially struggling and had been hoping for financial stability through her employment with Cora. Chapter 7: Revisiting Richard's death. Poirot investigates Richard's death more closely, looking for evidence of foul play. However, his doctor had certified the death as natural, caused by a long illness. Poirot also learns that Richard had considered changing his will shortly before his death, potentially cutting certain family members out. Chapter 8: Helen's Memory. Helen Abernethy, Richard's sister-in-law, remembers something odd from the funeral but cannot quite identify what it is. After some reflection, she realizes that Cora's maid was not the same person she had seen during a previous visit. This raises questions about the identity of the maid present at the time of Cora's murder. Chapter 9: The Stolen Painting. Poirot uncovers that Cora's painting, which she had excitedly purchased shortly before her death, was actually a valuable original. After Cora's murder, the painting was replaced with a forgery, suggesting that the killer was motivated by greed. Poirot begins piecing together how the painting connects to the murders. Chapter 10: Misdirection and Motives. Poirot carefully examines the family's alibis and motives. He discovers inconsistencies in their testimonies. Most family members have motives tied to inheritance, but Poirot is suspicious of Miss Gilchrist, whose behavior seems erratic. He begins to suspect that she may be hiding something. Chapter 11: Poirot's Trap. Poirot arranges a gathering of the Abernethy family and Miss Gilchrist. He claims to have uncovered decisive evidence about the murderer. His goal is to provoke the murderer into revealing themselves. During the meeting, Poirot observes the family members' reactions closely. Chapter 12, The Truth Revealed. Poirot reveals the full truth. Miss Gilchrist murdered Cora Lansquenet. Miss Gilchrist discovered that Cora had purchased a valuable painting. Knowing she was financially struggling, she decided to kill Cora, steal the painting, and replace it with a forgery. Miss Gilchrist staged the murder to look like a robbery gone wrong. Poirot also confirms that Richard Abernethy's death was entirely natural. Cora's remark about murder was purely coincidental and unrelated to foul play. Chapter 13, Justice and Closure. Miss Gilchrist is arrested and confesses to the murder. The stolen painting is recovered. The family reflects on the events, and Poirot's brilliance ensures that justice is served. The novel concludes on a note of resolution, with Poirot reflecting on human greed and its devastating consequences. Key themes: greed and inheritance. The story examines how wealth can corrupt relationships, driving people to betrayal and murder. Appearances versus reality. Many characters, including Miss Gilchrist, hide their true intentions, while innocent actions like Cora's remark appear suspicious. Misdirection. Christie masterfully misleads readers with red herrings, especially the focus on Richard's death, which turns out to be natural. The role of art. The stolen painting symbolizes the greed that drives Miss Gilchrist to commit murder. Analysis and conclusion. After the Funeral is a masterful mystery that combines complex family dynamics with a surprising resolution. Hercule Poirot's psychological insight and ability to uncover small but critical details like Helen's memory and the forgery are key to solving the case. The novel's exploration of greed and its consequences remains timeless, making it one of Agatha Christie's darker and more thought-provoking works. Thanks for listening SI Audiobooks.